go over 1,000. You can maintain for a decent amount of time on 150 to 180. When you jump that up, these guys explode. So with some people, I like to use insulin. So GH over time, we know that it could thicken the skin. So I'm going to get so much flack on this. I have seen a very significant difference with it. I've done a couple preps with it now with people, and they got healed on even less cardio, more food. They felt great. Thymus and alpha-1 and KPV changed my life. So since I had the mercury poisoning, my immune system has been horrible. I'm notorious for getting sick. Do people get quote unquote bigger? I've seen people use those dosages and they just get a very blurry look to their physique. They lose the deep details and what is bodybuilding. Yeah, she used to compete in figure and then wellness. And then I first messaged her early 2020. I didn't really like push anymore. And then 2022, I messaged her and I saw that she wanted like a serious relationship. That was when I was living here. She was in Colorado and like we got like really close. And then I saw like how serious she was about wanting to be serious. I said, listen, now is not the time for me to be doing a long distance relationship. Like I really like you. I'm like, and she was like, no, listen, I totally understand. And then it was May 2023. I fucking messaged her again and that was kind of it. May 23.
But when did y'all first start messaging?
2020.
2020.
Yeah. It was only like, I messaged her and it was like, oh, what show are you doing? It was like the corny, oh, I'm doing this and that. Yeah. And I didn't really push on it. In 2022, I messaged her and then we were talking for like, I don't know, a month and a half. And then I'm like, I need a little more. Because 2022 was a weird year for me. And then I got to Florida. And then, May 2023 is like, all right, I'm going to push now. And then we started like officially dating. July, we really got official. And then my dad was like, you need to marry this girl. Yeah, but she was right.
That's cool.
And I proposed to her on Christmas 23, and then we got married last year.
Oh, no shit, fuck. Yeah. Dude, congrats.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's the dream someday. Well, actually, no, it's not the dream anymore. I changed my mind, actually.
Really?
If a female comes in my life that I actually like really enjoy and I like vibe with, then I want to pursue it. Like I have this, like, I almost don't have to try. I just like go for it. You know what I mean? And I can tell you get that.
I do.
But instead I have to continuously just resist. And like whenever I'm feeling like this emptiness, it's weird. It's like I have to look at myself in this third person perspective. Think about 5-year-old Niall where it started and just be like, I've got us. It's okay.
Yeah.
I've got us. We'll be fine. And it's like an exercise. It's like a muscle I have to exercise to continuously be happy being alone. And I can't. And what I did the last, like, I don't know if it's Hormozy who said this, but it's building my confidence based off of who I've become. And who I've become is based off of the achievements I've made, the achievements I've had in my life, what I've accomplished. But that's the exact same conditional love.
Yep.
That I was put under when I was a kid. So that's the thing that I have to stop. I have to stop looking at myself at like, I am Niall, like I am this person, like I've gained this much. Like that's not why I've got us. That's not why I'll be okay. That's not why I'm good enough, you know? So it's weird. It's fucking like,
no, it's not weird.
Mindfuck, but
it's not weird. That's an identity thing. I've been there too. I remember, not to go too off topic, I remember posting this thing on Instagram. It was like 2021. And I was like, yeah, I am Dom and bodybuilding is who I am. And there was actually this person I met at Flex's gym. Forgot his name, but the guy had like a traumatic, serious injury. And like part of his arm was like ripped up. When he was a kid, he became very successful, but he also became like one of the leading people to talk for entrepreneurs and successful people to talk to when they can't identify what traumas they had or triggers they had and where they find their worth. And I walk into Flex's office and he looks at me, he goes, Dom, I need to talk to you about something. He's like, that post you made, you are not bodybuilding. It is not who you are. He goes, you are Dom. And I know you're still figuring out who Dom is, but you can't place your identity based on accomplishments or a thing. speed forward a little bit. You know who AJ Sims is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you follow him much at all? Like, do you pay attention to the stuff he posts? Honestly.
No.
So
I just know him.
Yeah. So AJ is one of the most influential and pivotal people I've had in my life. Not just from a coaching standpoint, which we could get into that.
Okay, cool.
But
he is bad at answering his DMs, though.
Oh, he's terrible.
Yeah.
He's awful. He's terrible with DMs. Awful. But if you need to speak to him, I can put you in. He's terrible with DMs.
Yeah.
But,
we've been in contact for like months, but haven't really gotten anywhere.
Yeah, he's not big with podcasts. He's not.
Yeah, he wants to come on. He just,
but it's getting him there to do it. But if you look at his posts about talking about identity and realizing like who we are, well, first let me ask you, are you religious?
Yeah. Well, for a while, I considered myself more spiritual than religious.
Okay.
Just because we don't have to get into it. But yeah, I am.
Okay. Can I ask, like, what do you believe in?
Yeah, I believe in God. I believe in God. I was raised Catholic.
Okay.
I don't really consider myself Catholic.
Okay.
I also love aspects of Hinduism and Buddhism.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
We'll just leave it there.
Are we recording?
Yeah.
Oh, so this is part of the podcast.
This is part of the podcast.
Perfect. Cool. So I'm going to talk about some experiences I've had.
Yeah, I would love to.
So again, back to AJ. So I grew up Catholic, right? I couldn't really say that I practice it, right? My dad would say our whole life, if your back's ever against the wall, meaning suicide, you always have God. But I didn't really practice it. And then, with my mom dying and the house burning down and a few years where I created my own chaos, I didn't really see that, nor did I seek him out. And it wasn't until 2023, because of my wife and AJ, that I found the Lord, Jesus. And my life, Niall, it made a complete 180. And listen, people can say, yeah, you did the work, this and that. As soon as I made that decision, and there's more that went into just making a decision, I mean, everything in my life changed to this day. And again, we could go deeper into that, but AJ talks about how we can't place our identity based on accomplishments or what we do or a sport or competing or our physique, like all this worldly stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't, at least in the eyes of a Christian, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Even if you're not a Christian, deep down, again, I know you're not fully involved in Christianism, but when you fully...
I would consider myself Christian.
Okay.
It's just... it's just hard for me to associate myself with the way I was raised because a lot of it's hard for me to still talk about this, but like how I was raised was in fear of everything, such as like you curse, you have sex before marriage, you do this, you wear a hat in church, you're going to go to hell. And it was all like, and the people who were showing me that and teaching me this were also the most hateful and judgmental people I knew. And I had something about that just did not seem right to me. Like, but I have a different perspective over it though.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too. It's like, listen, there's bad in every group. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, and also too, another thing that AJ has spoken about that really resonates with me. Jesus came to this earth, Jesus gave his life for us, right? No matter how bad you have done or what you have done, at the end of the day, we are still sons and we are all still loved no matter what. Now, does that mean live in fear? Absolutely not. I don't believe in Catholicism. I believe it is fear mongering. It is not the original church. That's a whole nother topic. But the day I started to realize that I didn't need to prove myself anymore, I didn't need to place my identity in anything, and I still struggle with it. We all have egos. We're all human beings. I still have it in me a little bit. Everything changed for me. But it's, again, like you mentioned something before, working on your awareness and the things that you have identified as a muscle, it's the same thing, right? You go to the gym, you train your legs, you got to keep your physique going by training. It's the same thing with your mind and the same thing with your spirit, right? If you don't train it, it does become weak. And that, again, that has been the biggest biggest change I had made in my life. And my life went out of the stratosphere in a matter of a short time. So, realizing that my identity was not bodybuilding, nor is it MMA or anything else, that's where true happiness comes from. And like I said, I still struggle from time to time, but I'm a human being, right? So, but I circle back to what you were saying before. I think you've made a big step in self-awareness and working on yourself through those issues. I don't like to call them issues, triggers and traumas. And that's what helps you grow, and you're continuing working on it. So again, just a little seed, I wanted to plant, because like I said, I've been through a bit, but it was all a learning process.
I like to make jokes a lot here and there, but like in all honesty, like these are the things that are the most important to me moving forward, I think. And I really appreciate you sharing that, man. I've heard a little bit of your story, which is kind of probably part of the reason why I felt comfortable talking about this off the bat, like starting off the podcast with this. Like I heard a little bit about yours on Fuad's podcast and a little bit on other podcasts, and I would love to hear a lot about it moving forward. But I think all I've got to say is like it's wild that you look back 5 years and I'm like, wow, I'm a completely different person. But then every single day I'm still discovering so many new things, not just about the world, but even more so about myself. So, and I think not being in the right relationship can cloud that and make it hard to see that. So it's just one of those things that I'm still learning right now.
Listen, people think life is so long, it's this short, but it's a never-ending book, and we're continually writing the chapters. And who we decide to involve in those chapters in writing our book makes a big impact on it as well. But then again, you find the wrong ones, you come across the wrong ones, it's another learning lesson, right? As long as, I don't believe in, yeah, sure, can we make mistakes? But we have to learn from them in some way. I mean, that goes with bodybuilding, that goes with relationships with family, whatever it is. So we're just always learning as long as we're open. I always have this saying, the day you stop learning is the day you're dead.
Yeah.
And that applies to everything. You have to always be willing to learn, either be about ourselves, again, nutrition, PEDs, a relationship, growing ourselves as people. So it's just a never-ending learning process.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny, I just texted someone that last week. That exact same thing.
What's up, y'all? So it's been a while since I checked the YouTube analytics. So it's looking like 55% of y'all are not subscribed. And if you guys have found value from this podcast during your 1 hour cardio sessions, then if you'd like to help support the pod, if you could just click the subscribe and the bell button if you haven't already, it'll help us immensely. And I'm sure you guys have noticed, as the podcast has grown, it's been easier and easier for me to reach out and get guests on that used to never give me an ounce of their time. So it's all thanks to you guys that we can have these conversations that 5 years ago, I couldn't really even have in person, nor was I comfortable to. And the world is changing year by year. And it's all thanks to you guys supporting content like this and making this a very open space. So if you guys would also like to support the podcast, code Nile for Young LA and Huge Supplements. Young LA is the clothing brand I've worn in a bunch of my podcasts. You guys may have seen probably about 90% of what I've worn is like Young LA, whereas the other 10%, probably like thrift stores, maybe Amazon. And Huge Supplements is the company that I have that whey protein and whey isolate. That's like really, really sweet. I like to mix it to Ninja Creamies. And then the Magnify and the pre-workout products that give me a good pump, but also makes it look juicy whenever you're trying to take those after pics to show people that I gym sometimes. So I appreciate you guys, and we'll get back to the episode.
Do you mind me asking how your journey started in bodybuilding?
You could ask me whatever you want. So when I played football all during my youth, went into high school, played freshman year. Right before school ended, they showed us the weight room. And it's so vivid in my head. I walk in the weight room. I remember the squat rack, the leg press, the leg extension. And they were kind of like, okay, just have at it. They didn't show us a thing. My first ever workout was legs. I had no idea what working out was.
It's a pretty sick workout.
It was fucking awesome. And I know here I am talking about Christianity and cursing, but that's just me. I'm from New York. Can you curse on this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Hell
cool.
yeah.
So I did legs. I remember just ripping the leg extensions, going to leg press. I had no idea what I was doing. The next day I couldn't walk. The second day I couldn't. I was so sore I couldn't get out of bed. And I'll never forget, my mom comes home, you got to go to school. I'm like, I can't walk. It's a true story. She goes, you're not doing this working out stuff anymore. This is ridiculous. Not even like a week after, my teardrop started developing. So now school is over. We can't use the weight room anymore. Started at a Gold's Gym in Brooklyn. It was Gold's Gym at the time. And my dad kind of got me signed up because I was underage. He came for one day, but that was it. And then I went on YouTube. And that's how I've always been. Either been when I was a kid playing like online semi-professional gaming, skateboarding, football. I love to learn and read. And I become very obsessive. The first video I ever watched was Ronnie Coleman, you know, the famous leg pressing video of Ronnie Coleman.
Yep.
I'm like, man, I want to do that. I didn't know what competitive bodybuilding was at the time. And then I saw videos of Jay Cutler walking around the gym. So, man, these guys just get big just to like walk around the gym. Like, this is pretty cool. So that's all I thought it was. And now I'm starting to learn. I discover who Arnold is. Now I just wanted abs. I was like, I'll just have abs. I can't picture myself standing on stage in a thong. Go on bodybuilding.com. I find AJ. I was 15.
Damn.
He was 19 at the time.
Holy shit.
Yep.
Wait, do you mind me asking how old you are now?
33. I just turned 33 last week.
Cool.
Yeah. I find AJ, message him, hey, I see you compete. I see you coach. I don't want to compete. I just want abs. I hire him. I think it was like $150 a month or something like that. Puts me on a keto diet. I go down to like 165. I kind of had abs. I never had the greatest abs. But because of him, I then discovered what competitive bodybuilding was. I didn't continue to work with him at the time because I had a training partner. His name was Mike. I met him through his cousin Richie at my school. Richie actually passed away in 2020. He in chemistry class. He's like, hey, my cousin Mike's a bodybuilder. You should train with him. So I messaged Mike on MySpace. He was like 22 or 23. I'm like, I would love to train with you. And we started training. He introduced me to Fakri Mubarak, who at the time was like one of the very few prep coaches. And that was it. The first time I competed, I was 16 and I was obsessed with Kai Green. Kai Green lived in Brooklyn. I watched the Mike Pulcinella video every single day. I would go to school eating my chicken in the bathroom, eating my fish in the bathroom. And yeah, I loved it. Loved it. And the first time, in the video, I think I did an interview with Dave Palumbo and somebody else after the show because I did the team class. Won my class, beat the 19-year-old in an overall, placed 5th in the open light heavyweight and 4th in the novice light heavyweight. And that's how it all started for me.
How did your next shows look after that?
So now that's it. I was hooked. I'm like, I'm going to become a pro one day. I didn't want to turn pro till I was like 25 or 26. I didn't want to do nationals till then.
Why?
Well, that was a thing back then. You know, you see guys turning pro 25 to 30 back then. I didn't want to rush it either. To me, it was a long game. And I wanted to take my time doing it. And it just happened a lot quicker. So I was like, oh, maybe when I'm 22, 23, I'll do junior nationals. But 18 years old, I do the Eastern USA. Won the teen class, won the teen overall, won my novice class. I could have won the novice overall. And then I placed 5th in the open light heavyweight. And in that class, you had Marco Rivera, my friend Mike Yablin, Brandon Green. It was insane. That's when I got my first sponsorship, actually. Somebody from Gaspari Nutrition actually knew him through our gym. Comes, hey, Rich, would love to sponsor you. And that was my first sponsorship. 19 years old, I do the teen nationals. Win my class, lose the overall to Cody Montgomery. They said my gyno was horrible, which it was. My gyno was terrible. Took a little time off, 21 years old, did the Eastern USA, had no intentions of doing nationals. And when you won the Easterns back then, usually that person would go and get their pro card.
Mm-hmm.
And did the Easterns, won the heavyweight class, won the overall. And I was working with Chad Nichols, and he goes, you need to do nationals. I'm like, sure, I guess. And 2 weeks later, I did the nationals, and I won my class and was in the overall Alexis Rolone. And yeah, was my amateur career.
Damn, bro.
Yeah.
That's a young-ass amateur career.
Yeah.
Fuck.
It was so much fun. It was so much fun.
That's sick.
Yeah.
When did you start PEDs?
I don't really, fuck. I don't really like to talk about this because I like to be a good, I don't want to say role model, but example.
Yeah.
Do I have to answer?
I mean, you don't have to, but I think what we've talked about on this podcast multiple times is like there is a lot of benefit to starting later, especially if you're not someone that's, and this happens, like a lot of people aren't even aware. You know, a lot of guys aren't even aware, but I think they can have a general idea if they feel a little bit emotionally reactive.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of guys that are also not like that, and a lot of guys that are level-headed at a pretty young age.
Yeah.
And if they want to be the best in the world, sometimes there is a little bit of merit to potentially starting earlier.
Yeah.
I still don't know if I would start as a teenager. Probably not. But before 25, I feel like, I don't know, like 21 or something. I just, I can't really put a number. I don't want to put a number because it changes per person, you know. But in my personal opinion, who you are as a person is most important. Like we said, like our identity is not bodybuilding. Who you are as a person is first, and you are still growing up till the age of 25.
Yeah.
So tinkering with that as minimally as possible, I think, is the best thing you can possibly do. But if you love bodybuilding and you're like, I have been told by people that I have potential to become Mr. Olympia or be even close, then I think you should chase your dreams.
Yeah. So
but learn through the podcast first, through podcasts. There's this cool podcast called Trensparent, but yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I started right before I turned 17.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't like to put that out there because, one, I do encourage people to wait a while. I do know a lot of people are very emotional with their thinking. But back then I knew it was what I wanted to do. And I acted as if I was a Mr. Olympia already. And I was told, I remember Fackery, first time I went to go pose for him, he looked at me, he goes, "You're going to be a pro one day, and you're going to be a very good pro." And back then, he was known as like the no bullshit guy in New York. So yeah, I started young, very young. But I'm also thankful I did too, because I got it over and done with young. You know, now I'm here in a completely different part of my life. And because of bodybuilding, I have everything I could ever want right now.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, it was young.
Going off of what you said, honestly, that makes me think of how I actually don't regret doing anything that I've done. Even though I made a lot of mistakes. But the one thing I probably regret is not informing myself properly beforehand. Because then I could have done it a better way. I could have taken care of myself a better way, and I could have looked way, way better too. You know?
Yeah.
So that's the one thing. And I feel like that's kind of enough to say, honestly. Like, just educate yourself and get as many perspectives that are credible as possible on, is this a good idea for you or not?
Yeah.
Is this a good idea for you or not? Is starting at this age a good idea for you or not, you know?
Yeah, and that, again, I was apprehensive to say it because I don't even think I've ever even publicly said it. Just because I see firsthand coaching, what goes on and what these kids are doing. And listen, I'm not going to say don't do it. I would say, you know, like everything you just said, are you educated enough on it? Are you doing your blood work? Are you actually living and breathing like a bodybuilder before you just take these enhancements? Because it's a big step.
Yep.
It's a lifelong commitment for most, you know? So yeah, I've always tried to, again, do I have any regrets? No. Zero. No. Well, I have one, but that's a whole nother topic. Has nothing to do with it. Yeah, no, we'll talk about it. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about it. It has to do with, you know, my mom and the New York Pro and stuff.
Yeah.
So it has nothing to do with competing, but yeah, it's just, that is a very, very, very big step. And I think a lot of these kids and people don't realize it's a lot more than just injecting yourself and taking orals. That is a lifelong commitment, and it comes with risk. It does.
Do you feel like you did it the right way? Yes, I do. Yeah, I had great guidance, and I also was a nerd.
before my parents knew what I was doing with bodybuilding, my mom was actually concerned why I was locking myself in the room outside of going to school. And my dad, it's funny when he tells this story. Well, first off, my mom was like, he has these pictures of these men on his wall and he's always in his room. And my dad comes in my room and he's, what are you doing? I remember telling him, I'm just reading I would just read and read and read. And back then we didn't have much on YouTube. So I was big into reading on forums, big into reading books, nutrition and the human body. And I remember he went down to my house. He says, no, he's fine. So I made sure, and listen, we could always know more, right?
Mhm.
But I had really good guidance and I made sure I was as educated as possible throughout the process. But I believe I'd done it right. But I did make some mistakes, especially later on, during my comeback, which we'll get into. But for the most part, it was all done right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I do like about about the guests on my podcast who have been brave enough to be just transparent about everything,
Mhm.
is that I have had a lot of guys in the audience that have either DM'd me or I've met them in person. And it's a lot of really smart young guys that know a lot. And some of them haven't even started gear yet.
Mhm.
And it's so dope, dude. And there's this one kid specifically who I was speaking with, and I'm going to sound really dumb because I don't remember the terms of a lot of this, but I think he has some kind of genetic issue with HPTA,
Mhm.
and he doesn't. His testosterone has been since he was younger, like under 300.
Mhm.
So his doctor is prescribing him certain stuff, but like all of these things that he's learned and figured out about himself was because he started researching
Mhm.
bodybuilding and then listening to all of these podcasts. Not just mine. I don't know what other podcasts, but other ones related, probably like the Unracked podcast, for example, too.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see because like he's setting himself up for so much success, but he's also like, dude, I'm like, this kid's like 19 and I feel like he knows about as much as I do. Like I
Mhm.
feel like I'm fucking behind now.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of cool to see because I think there's a bright side to all of this. I feel like the story is going to be really long because I do want to dive into it, but I also want to just talk about your methodologies, your coaching, like what you believe in, everything.
Mhm.
But if you don't mind me asking about your competitive career and your pro career,
Mhm.
and then the moment that you DM'd me about how that picture was from the New York Pro and that was when all that shit was going down for you.
Yeah.
Like what happened exactly? And
Yeah, so I'm going to try not to make it too long. So you posted the original picture.
Mhm.
I was 205 the morning. So the New York Pro 2016 was the first and only pro show I only ever did. And it was a disaster. I turned pro at 225, whatever the cutoff was for heavyweight. Day after the New York Pro, I was 205 after food and water. So I can't imagine what I was. I wasn't allowed to weigh myself. But just to kind of backtrack a bit on how I got there.
do you mind me asking why you weren't allowed to weigh yourself?
I don't know. I was working with Chris Aceto at the time. So I was training with Oscar in the gym.
Okay.
Oscar Arden was a very good friend of mine, trainer in the gym. And then Aceto was he was like, I don't want you weighing yourself. I'm like, cool. I was also told not to salt my food, so I didn't salt my food.
Yeah.
Again, more stuff we could get into.
Chris is all about that trust, man.
Yeah, and listen,
It's great.
anybody I ever worked
Funny.
with, I didn't have a morsel off the diet. I wouldn't even take pre-workout pre-contest. I wouldn't take a Tylenol without asking. It's just, if I pay you to do something and I have to listen to you to the T, I never questioned anything. Of course, I had my moments, I'm flat, I'm this, I'm that, the normal bodybuilder stuff, especially being young. But so that prep, we started at 20 weeks out, 21. At around 6 weeks out, I was almost ready. I think it was like 240s. And even I back then, look at those pictures. I have very few pictures. I'm like, man, it was a great, great look. And around 5.5 weeks. So my mom got diagnosed with AML, acute myeloid leukemia, before I turned pro. So it's funny, the doctors told her they couldn't go to Miami. She basically said, F you, I'm going. And she saw me win my pro card. And actually for Easterns, she was like, you're going to win the whole show and you're going to bring me the trophy to the hospital. And I did. So then when I did the nationals, the doctor was like, you can't go. Like, you can't. She goes, no, I'm going. And while she was down, she saw me win. While I was down in Miami, she had to get blood work done, get a transfusion, and get flown back. So speed up, she was battling back and forth with cancer the entire time. And it was about 5 weeks out from the New York Pro. I remember I go to the gym to do my cardio. Oscar's there because, you know, he was selling the house that the gym was in. Do my cardio, walk out, take my shirt off in the locker room. He looks at me. He was very dramatic. He loved bodybuilding. Oh my God. Like you could place top 5. You could possibly win this. I looked crazy. I was like so confident, you know, humbly confident in myself. And I looked incredible that morning. And I'd literally walk out of the locker room and I get a text from my dad. Hey, I think you should head up to the hospital today because she was in the hospital. So I was like, that's funny because I saw her a week ago at their house and she seemed okay. So whatever. I'm like, oh, just another day. She's just getting admitted to the hospital. Go home, pack my meals, take my time doing it. Go up to the ICU, walk into the room, and she's on the breathing tube, and she's asleep. They got all these machines. My brothers and my sister have their head down. My dad's like shaking his head. I remember punching the wall because I didn't realize what I was walking into. I caused a scene, and she was supposed to die that night. What happened was she got a bone marrow transfusion months before for a new immune system. She started getting fevers. She went to the doctors. They started loading her up on chemo, thinking she had cancer again. She did not, which we found out. And anyways, the chemo basically fried her new bone marrow. So her immune system was gone. So in our lungs, we have this stuff called aspergillus. Everybody kind of has it. Our immune system keeps it at bay. Hers was starting to like overgrow through her lungs. So she couldn't breathe. So that night, she was supposed to die, septic shock, kidneys started failing. This went on for about 3.5 weeks. I mean, every night they would say, oh, maybe tonight, then she would get better. Then she was on dialysis. Now this is all while she's in a coma. So during this prep, I kept going. Oscar would bring me my food to the city. We would train at Steel Gym in Manhattan. Every once in a while, I'd run home to Brooklyn, go check on my dogs, which like once a day, which was horrible. And we found a closet in the hotel. So I lived in that closet. I would sleep on the floor. And me and my dad would do shifts, right? So I would usually stay overnight, 30 plus hours awake, and here I am prepping, training, and I never missed a meal, never missed a training session. And then it was like 5 days before she died. I was still going and checking her. He was like, listen, I think you should focus on your show. Mind you, my body was just withering away. Like, dude, I didn't realize it, though. I was checking in for Chris in the hospital bathroom. But again, I never looked at myself and was worried about how I looked, really. Like, sometimes, I'm flat. But during this time, I'm like, all the trust is in him. And so 5 days before she passes away, I go home. And it was about 2.5 weeks out. My timelines may be off. But 2.5 weeks out, he goes, I think you should come up to the hospital. And my brothers and sisters were gone, and we go into the room to check on her. I'm like 2.5 weeks out at this point, and there's like a chunk missing from her arm for the test for something. And he's like, he starts crying. I don't know if we can do this to her anymore, and how can we wake her up like this? She was gonna go, like, she was dying. It was just a matter of letting her go now or letting this get even worse. She's blown up with 30 pounds of water. And I look at him and I'm like, I don't think we should put her through this anymore. And I said, he's all right, I'm going to call your brothers and your sister. They just left the hospital. They come back. And that night, we just let her go. And that went all night. I think she passed away around like 3:40 a.m., whatever it was. So stress was obviously crazy. And, even her passing away wasn't the easiest thing. Like, I mean, the process of how they did it, you know, she should have been gone in like a few minutes. It took 40 something minutes, and, you know, the noises and this, I was just the fucking beeping and of the machines. And she passes away. I go home. I remember waking up the next morning. I'm like, man, that was a crazy dream. It wasn't a dream. Still pack my food. We had the funeral. I'm still doing the show. And I remember like 2 weeks out, I'm just like, I call my dad. I'm like, I don't think I should do this show. I'm like, this is so fucking far off. Mind you, too, I was taking Xanax every time I would have to go to sleep for a while. Only when I had to go to sleep. So I just decided one night not to take it. And now I'm in full-blown Xanax withdrawal. And so here is all this on top of that. And I wasn't going to go to a doctor. I'm like, fuck, I'm just going to finish this. I remember calling him and being like, I don't think I should do this show. I think he goes, no, you're going to finish what you started. And he goes, your mother would tell you to. And at the moment, I'm like, this fucking sucks. But I'm glad I finished it. I looked horrible. I think going into that peak, I was 226 pounds, but it was a bad 226. It was so shriveled up, and I still had body fat on me. That peaking process, I don't blame Chris either, because my body was just so whacked out to begin with. I mean, it was aldactone and way too many diazides and zero salt and just egg whites and English muffins. And the night before the show, I remember getting these stomach pains, and Joe Binley, who owns Project AD, was sponsoring me at the time, which I still sponsored by them now. He was with me, and I felt like this stabbing pain in my stomach. And Chris comes in the room, can you pose? I'm like, no. He goes, can you eat? I'm like, no. I couldn't eat. I couldn't do anything. I took a whole bunch of AD Ravenous to I wasn't going to the bathroom. Did the show. I think I placed like second to last. And yeah, the day after the show, I was like 205 after food and water. But yeah, it was just a disaster. But I'm happy I did it. Aside from my mind being elsewhere, I got to compete with Rulli and Dexter and Victor and Juan Morel and John De La Rosa and and everybody tried to make me, everybody backstage knew what went on. So they all tried to make me feel like part of the crew. Guy Cicernino and Nathan Diasha, and I had pictures with everybody backstage. Well, I was all legs. My upper body looked like it was just nothing left. And, but yeah, it was a very big learning experience, not only for me mentally, to kind of set the bar and like what stress is for me, but later on, the lessons I learned on what stress and no sleep can do for a prep were, the takeaways I got from learning about what happened to me and being able to apply that to other people, it was well worth it. I have no regrets of that. So it sucks in a way. Again, the human side of me says it sucks in a way that had to be my only pro show, because I did try to come back later on, which we'll talk about. But everything happens exactly how it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
I wasn't meant to compete again,
I mean, I think you've made a pretty amazing and positive impact on the entire bodybuilding industry doing what you do now. So
thank you.
I feel like I would have to agree. How much do you feel like these people who have meant so much to you, that have been in your life, that aren't anymore, have changed you?
That's a great question. I mean, there's quite a few. I've lost some great friends. I mean, great friends, my mom. Now, present day Dom, there was a time where I didn't care about anything, right? So present day Dom wants to make them proud, right? What would they think? Or how would they want me to conduct myself? Mainly my mom. So I try to carry myself with honor and to honor her. It was a promise I made to my father when all this happened. And for a while, I really didn't. But it caught on eventually. Yeah, I try to honor her with all that I do and how I treat people. Again, am I perfect? No. But, that's how I move forward. Because like I said in the beginning of life is like this short. We're here for a short time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the experiences and the memories are beautiful ones, but life has to go on too.
Yeah.
Right? So you still have to carry forward. Now I have a wife who depends on me. you know, so life still goes on. And she would say, you just keep going and you do it to the best of your ability, just like I did that prep, right? The outcome may have been horrific in bodybuilding standards, right? But from a human and who Dom is, I still finished what I started. And that's how, you know, I carry myself today.
Yeah. And I think that's amazing, man. I've been thinking about this a lot recently because my friend Connor and my high school roommate, he also became a pretty big influence in the fitness industry maybe 8 years ago or so. I don't know if you've heard of Connor Murphy.
I have, yeah.
Yeah. He just passed away the other day. And 2 days ago. And one of the comments was very kind. I wanted to make a post because I think he was very misunderstood. And I think a lot of people started giving him hate after he ended up in a place, I think, where he was trying to figure out himself, who he was, what he wanted to do. And he had been through a lot of things growing up, and a lot of things that I can relate to very closely, which is probably one reason why we got close in high school, roomed together, why we ended up doing the exact same thing growing up, you know, starting social media, linking back up again in California. And I just wanted to let people understand that sometimes it's not easy, and I wanted them to value him for the positive impact he did make while he was here. And one of the comments was being very nice about how great and nice of Connor was as a person, because that person met him at expos multiple times. Said he was always very kind, and said some kind words about me too. And then he mentioned that I know that you, Niall, have lost a lot of close friends. So I just want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself too. And I've noticed that sometimes I do get in this place. Obviously, it depends on what kind of state of mind we're in, how much sleep we've been getting, how healthy we are, how much we've been taking care of ourselves. But sometimes when you're not in a good place and you're not getting that rest, you're not in a healthy state, your mind spirals pretty easily. And I've been in places where I've gone depressed and I've only just thought about all the loss I've had. And he passed away a couple days ago, and 2 days from now, my best friend Ryan passed away 5 years ago. And my ex's best friend passed away on this same date, 7/11, a year ago. And this was also 2 weeks before her first national show. And she wasn't going to do it either. But I think both of y'all is a very strong perspective. And having the same people in your life that are close to you telling you that you know that they would have wanted you to do it, I think shows a lot of strength. And even though she and I are not together anymore, I'm very proud of her for doing it. And she did great. First national show, she got top 5. So even though she had so much pain the week before and was smashing Doritos and all the shit, you know?
Yeah. That's part of your testimony, right? And I'm talking to you about my testimony. And it's funny because a couple of weeks ago, I told my wife, I'm like, I haven't really been posting on social media. I haven't been on too many podcasts. I haven't been the most popular coach as I was at one point for now. She's like, Dom. And there was somebody who won a 212 show. He mentioned it on Vitor, Porto. He won the Boca show. He comes back to me. And I never met him. He goes, Dom. Barely spoke English, had a translator. He's like, I just want to say I used to follow you when you were young. He goes, what I love the most is you talk about Jesus. And he has his translator saying it. He goes, and I love that about you. And I went home, told my wife the story. She's like, Dom, I don't think, it matters if you're the most popular coach at the moment or not. She goes, it's not who you are. She's like, I'm starting to think, she goes, I know you're here to talk about your testimony. I think, listen, we could talk about bodybuilding all we want, right? We love talking about it. But this is the stuff that really matters. Talking about our experiences and our testimony and being able to share it with others. So maybe somebody isn't, listen, you could have 50, 60, 100,000 viewers to this podcast. But if there's just one person who resonates with what you're saying, what I'm saying, and it could change their entire trajectory of their life. And that's, to me, what really matters. And one of our main jobs here in this earth is to bring as many people as we can to Jesus. And I know everybody in the comments won't like what I'm saying. That's fine. But I say it with ultimate confidence and being proud of that is one of our ultimate jobs. Because when we talk about how he has helped shape and completely transform our lives, and we share that with people, all it takes is a little seed. And I tell people, you have nothing to lose. It costs you no money. It costs you a little bit of time, but that's cool. Want somebody to talk to, you talk to him. I conversate with him all day. I pray on just about everything. People, business, everything. And it costs me no money. Nothing. I tell people, it'll cost you nothing. You have nothing to lose. And that's just me speaking from, like I said, the trajectory of my life has gone just from that change alone. So it's important for us to share these things, because we can talk about PEDs and nutrition and this and that. But in this industry and the world that we're living in today, it needs it. So I appreciate you sharing that too, because people feel funny to share these things. And they, there's this thing with a lot, it's not manly enough, this and that. Well, some of the greatest warriors of our history were followers of Christ. Some of the greatest. So yes, it is very manly, if you want to put it, for a man to follow Jesus and talk about his testimony. That's something I struggled with for a while, but I think it's awesome that you share these experiences, and you need to continue to do that. I think it helps heal us as well as individuals too.
Yeah. I think so too.
Yeah.
That's why I am thankful every day that I have this podcast and I have you guys to talk to, and I have this audience. It's given me that place, I think, to, like, I've found places where I think I can grow and heal amongst my close friends, but this has made it so I feel like I have countless people in the world that I can connect with, and I can't even explain a more beautiful feeling. Like, I would trade the pain of potentially losing someone for the fact that I get to meet them in the first place and have this experience any day. Honestly, we could list out a long list of all the peptides that have helped us. You guys have heard these peptides and these research chems in the podcast maybe a million times. Peptides I've used from APR, such as BPC 157 and TP 500 for soft tissue healing, retatrutide and other GLPs, mitochondrial support such as SS31, MOTC, 5-amino-1Q, methylene blue, SLU. There's a bunch of others. Obviously, the list goes on and on. One of my favorite things, though, that I've been utilizing, such as during my last prep, that has allowed my blood work to come basically pristine, aside from slightly elevated liver enzymes at about 60 and 130 1 week after the show. And this is after a leg day because my dumbass doesn't want to skip a training day. These are probably the things that I think are the most important. So this includes like your injectable glutathione, injectable or even just normal NAC, liposoluble glutathione, GI aids such as oral BPC, oral TB, KPV. A lot of these things have probably been very substantial in reducing oxidative stress and keeping all my blood markers down, and thus keeping me as basically healthy as fucking possible that you can be while you're bodybuilding. So I couldn't be more thankful to Mike for literally showing me the ropes and also providing me with all of these things. Even the compounded supplements that he creates for blood pressure and reducing oxidative stress on all your organs, including your cardiovascular system, your liver and your kidneys. All of these that he creates have been very substantial, honestly. So you can find any of these at his site, aprhealthsolutions.com, and he has offered me a code Nile for you guys to use, which will offer you a 15% discount off of all of that as well. If you guys end up using those and you like him, please let me know. Shoot in a comment, just give me a DM or something, and if you ever have any problems or any questions, I'll be here too. This is a community for me, even though I don't have a fucking Discord because I'm lazy as shit, but I fucking should make one. So love you guys, and
Keep training hard.
It was the kind of horror that felt like a horror because I would always tell her, like, I love my best friend Ryan and I'm so proud of him and I'm so happy that I got to meet him because he made me a stronger, more loving, more accepting, more resilient man. Like, he was like my Jesus on earth, man. Because, like, literally that, like hippie ass motherfucker that just like loved everybody, that was super sick as fuck, like fucked with anybody, no matter what kind of person you were, no matter what you did in your past, no matter what, but just continuously did good shit. Even though he's been through countless fucking pain, man. Dude, I can't even express what's worse, like, other than like just extreme poverty, like your family and your close ones dying in front of you, being in fucking prison and having to handle that whole shit by yourself. Like, he smuggled a bottle of tequila in prison and like created a truce between the Mexicans and the whites. So the fire department reached out to him and asked him if he would work as a firefighter. That's how he got out of prison, is because he saved this kid's life who ended up being the son of the head of the police department while he was a firefighter, being in prison. Like, it was the craziest fucking story you could imagine, man. And then,
you know, I kind of live being like, listen, there will be more loss. It's human nature, right? Like I said 1,000 times, we're here for a very short time, and we don't know when you or I are going to go. We don't know when somebody we love is going to go. That's why it is important to honor those people and live as if it's tomorrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it sounds morbid, but if I was to go tomorrow, cool. You know, I'm not in like a morbid way. I'm just as a believer of Christ and giving my everything to him. You know, we believe that that's where we're going, right? So yeah, it's just crazy, but it is a part of life. And that's why, you know, like we were just saying, we got to bring as many people to him as we can, because, you know, nobody knows when their last day is. It's a part of this short chapter in life.
Mm. If you could go back in time, is there anything that you would change about how you grew in bodybuilding? From your training, your nutrition, your PEDs?
So, I mean, there are things I did wrong. Like in all my contest preps, I never use salt. Like I would use like mustard that had the lowest sodium because I wasn't told salt your food or how much salt to put on.
Mm-hmm.
Like stuff like that. Training wise, no. I mean, from day one, like I was taught how to train hard and squatted heavy and deadlifted heavy. You know, maybe would have been a little more forgiving on my spine, but like you and I were talking about pre-show, you know, I had lower back surgery 2018. I'm looking at possibly getting neck surgery, which I'm sure martial arts haven't helped the last few years. But congenitally, I just have just a narrow spine. It just runs in the family.
But were you able to manage and auto-regulate your fatigue and volume, or your volume based off of your fatigue because you're training so hard? Because that's something I wasn't able to do when I started.
So I recovered extremely well. And I specifically remember, and maybe because I was young, no matter how hard we trained, my recovery was incredible. So, but I do specifically remember when I started training again with Oscar, 2015. It was August 2015. He goes, I'm like, listen, I want to do New York Pro next year. He goes, all right. He's like, you know, we got to put some size on. So he was training me in the gym, and he sent me a few options for splits. There was, you know, a 5-day bro split. There was another split, which I can't remember, but there was a 4-day split. Monday was chest and biceps, Tuesday legs, Wednesday off, Thursday back, Friday off, Saturday delts and triceps, Sunday off. It was a 4-day split, and we hammered it, and I got big. And it was funny, because once that off day hit, I was like, man, you know, beginning of that off day, I'm like, all right, I do need to rest. By the end of that day, I'm like, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
So again, I was young though, right?
That's also a great split though, that like having that guidance, I think, is super helpful. Like having a 4-day split, 3 rest days in there, but being able to hit it fucking hard every time. Like I almost sometimes think that like the 4-day splits are the most optimal if you can train hard. Like I really like Terrence Ruffin's like 4-day, but like 2-a-days in those working out days, because I feel like having the full rest day, there's something special about those, you know?
And if we can truly maximize, again, everybody's capability of recovering is different, and their genetic capabilities to put muscle on. but the recovery is where it all happens, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, everybody's definition of training hard is a little different, intensity. But back then we were just hammering it. But it worked. I was recovering. I had no injuries, nothing. I only started really getting injuries a couple of years ago. My lower spine started to go when I stopped training in 2017. Then I'm like, oh, I'm going to start training. I was doing concrete. I was coaching part-time. But other than that, my joints were always great. So when it comes to training, if you're really going to crank it, and pursue what a lot of people don't realize too is everybody connects differently to muscle, right? There are just some people who need the extra volume because they can't connect as strong to the muscle. There are people who need to train less because they're able to adapt and connect. When you're able to connect to a muscle more, there's more damage, right? So a lot of people don't take that into consideration as well. But the 4-day split was definitely my favorite. And having to manage fatigue was never an issue for me back then. And again, another thing Oscar taught me when I was very young, he was like, your body doesn't know if it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Your body only knows what it feels in the moment. So if I felt like, oh, I couldn't use another rest day, I took it. And then we're back at it the next day, you know? So we were very big on listening to our body. And I
think that's probably the most important thing there, though.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that some people, I didn't when I was younger. I didn't have that perspective. My thought was like, okay, go hard. That's old school. And to me, that meant go hard all the time. Like if I'm fucking exhausted and I'm fucking feeling broken down, I gotta fucking push it, you know? But
yeah,
that's where I realized like that's why my legs didn't grow. My strength grew a little bit. Had strong legs, had strong squats, but like for some reason they weren't growing in size. And now my legs blew up in the last 2 years because I learned.
You gotta listen to your body.
Yeah.
Yep. So again, we, old school, go hard, all that, but we also knew how to recover too. It's funny. I guess I didn't learn that lesson well enough because when I got into martial arts, I was like I got into martial arts when I was 28. I wanted to fight. And my coach was big, listen to your body. And then I would do my training in the morning, go to like the jiu-jitsu gym at night, do more. And every camp I got horribly sick in. So I guess I didn't learn that lesson hard enough in bodybuilding. I mean, I broke my body down. And then it was funny. Later on, I learned, okay, I really don't need to train as much. My body isn't meant to do this twice a week, 6 days a week. But learning and being aware of how your body feels is super important in bodybuilding. And another issue which I identified with most people, there's so much information out there that people become so confused that they're not able to learn what does listen to your body mean, right? So they see all this stuff, you need to do more, you need to do less. They get so confused and they can't figure it out. So, being aware and learning how to do that is very, very important.
I think when it came to diet, yeah, I mean, what's coming to mind for me is like realizing that like as my diet adjusts and as my diet changes, that's another big factor as to how I feel. And another reason why the auto regulation is so important. Like even in the off season, as I start consuming all those calories, I feel fucking amazing in the beginning. But as it goes and you start reaching peak off season, it's where I start feeling a little bit of gut issues because I'm pushing food. But along with those gut issues and having a full stomach, so does my performance go down. I've been 3 to 4 weeks in my cut now, and I PR'd today on chest. And the reason is because yesterday was a rest day. I was very well rested. And this morning, even though it's kind of crazy, I trained fasted. I just felt I felt amazing. And I knew that if I ate food, because we had this podcast, so I was like, okay, I have to get training as fast as possible so I can get back, make sure that I'm ready for this. If I ate food, I would have that digesting in my stomach, and that would potentially hinder my performance.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really know that it would affect it that much back then. Even like a year ago, I didn't. But after all these podcasts, I realized actually even just a little bit of food in there, even if it's not a lot, can still hinder performance. I fucking hit PRs and I was like, this is fucking wild, dude. It really is. There's really actually a lot of thought that goes into optimizing yourself for bodybuilding.
Well, you also just brought up a good point as well, too. The old school way is eat as much as you can for as long as you can. till you're full. Then you have the stomach issues and you just power through and you take more drugs. It is not that way, right? So one of the goals I have with all my athletes in the off season, you should be hungry for food, no matter how much you're eating.
Yeah.
It's a signal, right? When that starts to shut off, usually then there's something going on inside the stomach. We could have, we're seeing gut issues with a lot of guys today in terms of like SIBO and H. pylori. I think a lot of that's coming about because now there's more people taking GI maps and there's actually education on it too. But the environment, like for instance, here's a good point. My off seasons, I ate so much, I was full all the time. If I could go back, I wouldn't have done that. Bagels and pound of pasta a meal and this and that. And I looked horrible in my off. Did I grow? Yeah, but it's funny. As soon as I went into prep, I did all my growing in prep. Why? I'm more insulin sensitive. I'm not full all the time. My training performance is through the roof. And, back then we were told, back then as if it was so long ago, but, back then we were told just eat as much as you can. And again, usually the body starts to kick back. So if that environment or the terrain is as prime as possible in terms of like insulin sensitivity, you are what you digest, right? If it's just sitting in there, what's the point?
Yeah.
So making sure my athletes, they're hungry for their food in the off season is important. I do watch the blood sugars. I do pay attention to how pumped are you getting in the gym? How do you feel in the gym? How are you mentally feeling every day? How's your sleep? All that is super important. That's stuff I wish I knew back then. Was never told to pay attention to all that. So, again, everybody's a different person, but like in your case, here you are, you're probably becoming more insulin sensitive.
Yeah.
Your stomach isn't under so much stress, and what happens? It wants to grow,
Yeah.
It's all about the terrain that you set.
Yeah, I agree. It was a surprising thing to me too, because like I'm also off cycle. Like I was like off cycle 3-4 weeks ago, started the cut 3-4 weeks ago and hitting a PR. Like all I could think about is like, all right, because I'm choosing to do a cut during an off cycle, all I need to focus on is maintaining that performance in the gym so I can maintain that muscle mass as best as I can.
Yep.
And in putting everything around that, it's pretty cool to see like how I can actually maintain that.
But you bring up another good point too. So our body has to process these drugs, right? People think more drugs. And listen, there is levels to this, right? But here you are, you're going into a cut. Your stomach is probably digesting a lot better. You're becoming more insulin sensitive. You're on TRT? Yep. So why can't you put muscle on or maintain your performance? See, if you were blasting right now, you'd probably feel a little bit different, because that's another thing too I've realized with a lot of guys in their off seasons is you can only blast drugs for so long. People make the argument that, the longer you stay on, there's no receptor down regulation. Okay, sure, studies show that. But there's always a wall that you hit. And what do people do when they hit that wall? More drugs. And you can only go so far with that. So a lot of guys in like similar to your case, okay, appetite's going away. We've been on cycle for 16 to 20 weeks. We're not really seeing anything else. Let's taper the test down. Let's start bringing the food down. Next thing you know, pumps are crazy again. Endurance in the gym is crazy. They're setting PRs and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe how I feel in this. It's all about the terrain that you set. But listen, I used to love gear. I did. It was the most fun thing in the world. But I also I used to come off completely, because that's what I was told, PCT, which I'm glad I did. But I remember specifically when I started that 4-day split, I was on 100 milligrams of testosterone every 6 days, eating food, and I was still getting stronger and still getting bigger. So a lot of times taking that step back is huge into taking 10 forward. So, and you're seeing that firsthand. Sometimes it's best to pull back to kind of slingshot forward, is like how I like to put it.
Yeah. With that being said, also, that's one of the things I really love about you and Dom Kuza, Dom Superslice, Chris Tuttle. You guys all focus on performance, which it really is at the end of the day. So for, say, like your average client, how would you structure starting off their off season?
What type of person are we talking about? Like, give me an example, because there's 1,000 things that go through my head.
Right. For a lot of the last several months on podcasts, I would just say like your average freshly new classic pro, because I don't know, I feel like that sounds like an average for the competitive audience.
Okay. So first, I'm going to look at what have they been doing. Well, we're going to run blood work first and foremost. We're going to dig deep into making sure that their organs are fine, check their thyroid, check their inflammation markers, which is a big one. A lot of people overlook the inflammatory markers. We're going to do that. I'm going to look at what have they been doing. Have you been on a full-blown cycle for this entire time? If they have been, we're pulling back because like I just said before, what is the point of adding more drugs on? We need a fresh slate. So I like to call it establishing a baseline in terms of nutrition. So, I mean, it depends on, where they're at nutrition-wise, but I would like to start them on a TRT dose and then work up the nutrition from there. Because if I have all these extra drugs in and I'm trying to manipulate the nutrition to kind of program the body to what I want it to do, how do I get an accurate assessment of what is doing what, right? So for me, it's training and nutrition first and then the PEDs. So in a lot of cases, usually when we do pull back, like in yours, they start making progress. So then when we do start the true growth phase of adding in more PEDs and tailoring the food more, the progress is just like clicking. No gut issues. They're always hungry. They're feeling amazing in the gym. They're sleeping. And then when we see those things start to deteriorate, that's when we kind of have to reassess what direction we're going in. So usually if they are coming to me still on more than a TRT dose, we're going down to a TRT dose. Let's make sure that you're covered from every angle possible when it comes to nutrition. I like to think a lot deeper, and I thank AJ for this, a lot deeper than just protein, carbs, and fats, right? Digestibility of foods, micronutrients. I love fruits. I love veggies if the person's body handles it fine. And making sure we establish that baseline first and foremost before we start, going into anything deeper in terms of PEDs.
Is there any numbers that you could give? Just assuming like an average. I know sometimes it can be hard because there's so much variance.
Yeah.
So let's start at like nutrition, for example.
Okay.
Numbers starting off from the beginning. I would assume that this person would, since you guys are starting on a TRT, what would you do in that state? Would you do like a maintenance, or if it was like after a prep, like what would that look like? If it wasn't after a prep.
In terms of nutrition?
Yeah, in terms of nutrition.
It's going to start off mainly as a maintenance, and then I'm going to build up from there. I mean, depending on their needs that I'm showing week to week. So let's say the person is 205 pounds. We'll put the protein around 250. We'll put the carbs around 250 to 300, fats around 50 to 60, and build up from there. Again, I hate giving numbers because it's so person dependent.
Yeah.
But we need to start at a baseline, because if I start you too high, then what if that causes, if I start you too low, that can't be good either. So I'd rather find that middle ground to kind of program things from there. And usually with most people, as I build them up, I want there to be more food. What happens when there's more food and you're digesting it? You grow, usually. Unless you're feeding just a never-ending pit when it just comes into metabolic demand. So I would say those would be like the starting numbers roughly.
Yeah, okay.
And of course, too, figuring what food sources agree with them or don't agree with them as well. So like when I do my diets, I lay everything out A to Z, what you're eating, how much you're eating, when you're eating it, the supplements, and then we dial it in from there.
Okay. What about the cycle when they start jumping on?
So if we're going from a TRT, I mean, my TRT guys range from 150 to 200. People like panic when they hear anything less than 200. But most people's levels get up to right under 1,000. Some people go over 1,000. You can maintain for a decent amount of time on 150 to 180. And then usually when you jump that up, I mean, these guys explode. So let's say I have you on 180 milligrams of testosterone a week. Your blood work is great. Your gut is great. We have your food really pumping. We'll probably do 500 milligrams of testosterone, 3 to 5 IUs of growth hormone, because I do like testosterone and growth hormone as the base. I mean, they're pretty forgiving on the body. I do like NPP as long as the person does okay with it mentally. So we could do 50 milligrams every other day. And then with some people, I like to use insulin. I'm not huge on insulin, right? There also has to be a trust there between me and the client. I have to trust that they're able to know what 4 IUs is or 5 IUs is and time it out. But I don't rely on insulin. So I would say 500 milligrams of testosterone, 75 milligrams of NPP a week, 3 to 5 IUs of GH, and, if they need it, an Arimidex or Romazin.
Okay. How often do you see them needing an AI?
Most people do need it. Yeah. So, I mean, we're going to see that on blood work too. You know, there was for a while, there was this notion that you could run estrogen as high as you possibly can as long as you're not showing. I don't agree with that. I mean, then you start to see the physique become really soft. A lot of people aren't aware with themselves to where it is affecting them mentally. Now, do you need estrogen in the off season? Absolutely. It impacts IGF conversion. It impacts, you know, protein synthesis, and of course, joint health and making them feel good. But if I am going to use an AI, it's going to start really low. It just depends on what the person's body calls for, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When do you ever, and if you do, when do you ever implement something instead of an AI, like, you know, like Primo or
So
BQ or Mouse?
again, it depends on the person too. I mean, for me, I don't really like to rely on Primo because number one, it's been hard to get. Two, a lot of people don't get their stuff tested. So, especially the past year since all the China crackdowns, right? So if you're getting Primo and you're not sending it to JanoShake yourself, how do you know what's in it? Oh, but my guy said he tests it. Don't trust your guy.
Mm-hmm.
Test it yourself. So I'm not going to rely on a Primo. EQ works pretty damn well with most people for that, but it's unpredictable, right? And then we have to worry about the estrone conversion and whatnot. So I don't like to rely on a Primo or EQ for estrogen control. The aromatase inhibitors are there. As long as you're not overly abusing them in the off season and you know how to use them, they're pretty safe for the most part. That's why they're there. So I've never run into any issues with using them. I mean, I know people say, oh, they're so bad for you. Okay, but yet you're going to nuke your estrogen with Primo.
Okay, yeah.
So,
and again, this might vary per person for sure, but what would the changes in the cycle look like as this person progresses? Say that they're continuously making, say that their performance is continuously progressing.
okay. And you're saying, would we escalate the dosages?
Yeah, like at what points would you start escalating?
So if they're visually growing, if performance in the gym is still going, I'm keeping it the same.
Mm-hmm.
Why change it? Why fix what's not broken? Now, obviously, I want to try to stick with that for as long as possible and rely on the food. Again, I always go back to the food.
Mm-hmm.
The food is going to fuel everything. But let's say it's been, 10 weeks, depending on their experience level, what they've used in the past, their experience with PEDs, their genetics, maybe they need a little more. So maybe at 10 weeks out, at 10 weeks after starting a cycle, we'll bump up the test maybe to 600, 750. I will always bump test before I bump the exotic drugs, right? Or the GH, because again, that's as long as you're controlling your blood pressure, it's going to be more forgiving on the body and the mental space, especially when it comes to the nandrolones and equipoise with some people. I don't want them to become anxious, or to start ruining their sleep, which has become a big issue with a lot of people. So I would say around 8 to 10 weeks out, we may, raise the test dosage up. But again, I say it over and over, I would much rather manipulate the food before the drugs.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yep. It's been fun to play around with this. This is kind of like why I wanted to do my own off season this year. It's like to play around with this because I think it's cool to have heard from a lot of coaches recently about now, people are actually like running cycles, they're not doing a whole off season and there's like one health phase per year, but there is a lot of clients that are under that, a lot of coaches that are having their clients almost run full off seasons. And I personally had that experience myself where I ran a full off season with it wasn't like 16, 20 cycle lengths based off my performance. It was just like push hard. And then when I'm starting to plateau, try to like hold that tissue because the idea was like that the longer I hold that tissue, the less it'll be lost during prep. But I just don't think I really gained that much size in the long run doing so versus taking the breaks and pulling back whenever I feel like is necessary. One, giving my gut a break, restoring insulin sensitivity, restoring my tolerance to these drugs. And then all three of those, and potentially also at the same time, and syncing up, like just giving my training a little bit of a break, and then progressive overloading again from the bottom. Like I feel like those have been the best way by far for me to make the fastest gains, and also just like feel great.
it works. Again,
Yeah.
back to what we were saying before, you're giving your body rest from all aspects.
Mhm.
You can't just continually pound your body. It's going to start to take on that very worn look. I mean, yeah, will you put on muscle? Maybe, but people call this bro science, but we've seen people who just blast drugs continuously. They get big, but they just have a very ugly look to their physique, right? So knowing when to pull back, and hold that. But you brought up a point before, Nate, holding that muscle tissue, right? That is important too. Because if you're just going into an off season and dieting down right after, that muscle does have to stick around for a bit. Because the newest muscle tissue is usually going to be the first to go in a pre-contest that's not done right. Or even the one that's done right? So for instance, my chest was always horrible. And then again, too, the diet tactics during a lot of my preps are weird. My training could have been better back then with my chest training. But you do need to hold on to that muscle tissue for a bit, at least solidify it. And then you go, all right, let me pull back for a bit. And then it really sticks. So like I've said, and it was taught to me, champions are like made in the off season. They're not made in preparations. They're not. The work is done in the off season, doing everything that you're doing now. And again, I love the fact that you've identified and you're actively practicing knowing when to pull back, because that's how continuous progress is done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You mentioned when some physiques can start looking ugly. What are your perspectives on GH, and like how high do you ever feel comfortable pushing that?
So GH over time, we know that it could thicken the skin. So I'm going to get so much flack on this. I do see and I have seen a very significant difference between pharmaceutical GH and generic.
Okay.
Phil
says the same thing.
I've had genotropins and nordotropins from the American pharmacy. People are like, oh, I took the pharmacy stuff from Turkey. I guarantee you there's generic GH in them. I've seen the fake ones. And there is differences between the GHs, right? If you look at where they're derived from, Serostim's derived from a different bacteria than nordotropin and genotropin. You can look this up on their websites. So when I always ran it, I had a much different look to my physique. I've tried generic. I did not like that look. The skin looked a lot different, but all GHs in some way will thicken the skin. It's just a matter of it, happening and how long you're running it for and higher dosages. Insulin resistance is another one, but I do have to say, it is very rare that my guys become insulin resistant on growth hormone. One, because of the way I'm manipulating nutrition. Two, I love GDAs. Over-the-counter GDAs do work. They're almost, depending on, if anybody has any gut issues, they're almost staples for everybody I work with across the board. Because if we can keep you as insulin sensitive as possible through cardio, GDAs, and manipulating nutrition, then you can keep using the GH and you can run higher dosages. Now, is there a threshold with growth hormone dosing? Yes. The most GH I ran during my comeback, which never happened, was 15 IUs. I didn't have to go over 10 IUs, and I had the real deal. So that's another thing I've noticed. Do people get quote unquote bigger? I've seen people use those higher dosages and they just get a very blurry look to their physique, and they lose the deep details. And what is bodybuilding? It's not just about being big. You want to be detailed. You want to be striated. So there is definitely correlation to abusing, any use is abuse, to abusing growth hormone. Do I think growth hormone works? Absolutely. There's a reason why guys are still using it. So those are some things I take into account, but I can say absolutely 1,000% there is a difference between generic and pharmaceutical. And now people will say, oh, I ran Serostim. I was never impressed with Serostim. But the genotropins and nordotropins, they were a matter of a week. I saw a difference in my physique in terms of fat loss, the look in my skin, the roundness of the muscles. So, and all generic growth hormone isn't created equally either. So those are the things I keep in mind when it comes to growth. I hope that answered your question. I know I went on a rant.
No, that wasn't a rant at all. Why exactly the Serostims were you not the biggest fan of compared to, say, the genotropins?
And the nordotropins, and again, I had all of them from American pharmacies. I know without a doubt they were real. When I started taking the genos and nords, right away, this, I'm going to sound nuts, but the skin on my face would glow. And me, I never was a naturally lean person. You want to talk about fat loss? It was dramatic. I turned pro in nordotropins. I think the most I ran that prep was 7 IUs. And then Serostim just didn't give me that same look that Nords and Genos did in terms of like roundness and the way it kind of facilitated that fat loss. And I tried them over and over and I had them for years. So does Serostim work? Absolutely. Yeah, it works. I mean, it's pharmaceutical growth hormone, but Serostim was made for people with immune issues, mainly people with HIV, AIDS who had muscle wasting. Norditropins and genotropins were made for people with, the growing deficiency, mainly kids with the growing deficiencies. So I did notice a big difference in what I got between, those three.
Wow, that is cool to hear.
Yeah.
Because the only thing I've heard really about like Serostim being different is like you end up having like this drier look.
It's even drier on Genos and Nords.
Really?
Oh yeah. Like that's why I loved it too. Cause I'm always been a very more watery. I had an ugly off season look, but I was always very water retentive and I was very, very sensitive to growth hormones. So those ones were like noticeable with how much drier I got.
Okay. Man, fuck, shit's so
and this
expensive,
isn't,
dude.
and good luck finding the American grade. Like people like, oh, I get it from this country, I get it from that. They're 95% of them are counterfeit. So, and I was a GH connoisseur. I love GH. I had tons of it on hand at all times. I spent all my money on it at one point. I loved finding pharmaceutical drugs that were real back then. Mm-hmm. And there is definitely, and it wasn't just me, even with other pros that I were very close with and people that I've worked with and being able to see it firsthand. And they would send me a picture of what they got. I'm like, that's the real deal. So yeah, there's a very big difference.
Okay.
Because of all the drama of the last company that I was working with, and I'm not trying to point any fingers or anything, but you guys definitely have probably heard what was going on. I've been a little bit skeptical, to be honest, and I've been wanting to find an HRT company that I could work with and that I could get my blood work done with, and that would offer me some proper guidance without upcharging all of my homies and shit. So there's this kind of crazy opportunity that I feel like the universe has granted, because it's not something that I searched for necessarily, but ended up being through connections with my closest friends. And it's this new company I was working with, Optimize HRT, which Nathan was recently discussing. And I just gotta say, man, I'm really proud of everything that they've created and everything that they're standing for. They're trying to take advantage of the fact that they know what went wrong with the last HRT company and trying to make sure that that doesn't happen this time, if you know what I'm saying, and doing things the right way. So this company is where I am getting my blood work done from and basically getting all my health measures and protocols for longevity checked. And basically the difference between an HRT clinic and a research chem gray market source is that the HRT clinic works with a 5083 compounding pharmacy. You can get all your peptides and your medications prescribed by the doctor. If you're not getting a hormonal peptide or medication such as testosterone, nandrolone, Winstrol, or Anavar, which you can get prescribed to yourself if the need is shown, such as like osteoporosis or some other muscle wasting disease, then luckily you can get the peptides prescribed to you without having to get blood work done. But they do offer a $100 membership that includes free blood work, which is normally a $420 panel every 3 months. And with the membership, you also get a wellness specialist that is like your peptide coach that will, with the doctor, give you the best peptide protocol or medication protocol to make sure you reach your goals. And these are goals such as fertility goals, cutting down and getting fucking jacked, composition goals, longevity goals, basically everything that you can imagine that is fucking sick for dudes. The other great thing, aside from getting everything prescribed, which obviously you can show your destinations if you're traveling, your prescriptions, so you're not getting thrown into jail in Tokyo or some shit. It is sent with cooling, needles, and instructions, which is actually illegal for research chem science. And in terms of safety and quality, Optimize HRT does work with a 5038 compounding pharmacy, in which the FDA checks for its inflow and outflow currents to make sure that there are no vortexes that cause contamination, which yields the highest threshold of safety, basically. So this is on an opinion by opinion basis. Like if you decide that you want to go the cheaper route, then normally gray market sources that are research chem sites will normally offer these for cheaper. Since the company is still new, they are offering their peptides at the lowest cost that they can in respect to other HRT companies, because they are trying to get their member base up. So if you are wanting to join an HRT clinic, now is probably the time. And that link is going to be in the description if you guys are interested. You could also use code NILE whenever you apply, because that helps your boy out and gives me a little reference and gives me some creds. so they know I'm sick and that people actually like the podcast, which would be pretty awesome. Since I am helping with the start of this company, I want to make sure that this is the best company that could possibly give us the best experience. So if you guys happen to have any questions or any concerns, bring this shit up with me, man, because I want to make sure that we all grow this to be the best that we can, and we all grow together, obviously, because otherwise my podcast is shit and everything that I've like worked for is like fucking pointless. So that's what it's all about, bro. Is family and brotherhood and us getting fucking yoked.
Do you feel like GH, and you can specify whether or not you feel like there's a difference between the quality of GH2, but do you feel like GH makes any effect on proportions long term?
Proportions?
Yeah.
Well, there's two sides to that, right? So we can talk about, the stomach issues that come from growth hormone. Can it make you hold water in your intestines? Absolutely. But there's also other things that go into that as well. Insulin resistance, the amount of food somebody's eating. We have heard that people's limbs start shrinking later in age from it. Again,
is it from GH or just from aging?
I believe it's from aging, but also to insulin resistance over time ruins your nerves. So of course it's from aging. But again, this is my theory. I have not proven this. I'm not a scientist or doctor. But if you're insulin resistant for a long period of time, it destroys your nerves. Why do you think diabetics, a lot of them run into nerve issues? So, yeah, the stomach thing is not, any guy that I've had on GH, even higher doses, never had a stomach issue. In terms of distension, again, it always goes back to nutrition, right, and insulin resistance. So it can lead to issues, but I believe based on those two subjects.
Okay. So here's my thought. There's people like Kurt Havens who says you can run GH as high as possible, hyperplasia, it doesn't create any effect on your body or whatever. He's an example. I think there's some valid things to what he says. I also do think that everybody's different. So maybe he's somebody who can do that, but there's also a lot of people who necessarily can't. Same reason why there's some people who can peak for a show on Superdrol and there's other people that can't. Justin Harris believes that high dose GH for a very long period of time, he believes is a contributor to some of the unwanted changes in proportions. How much of that is an effect? I'm not sure. I do agree that there's it's an extreme multifactorial equation where you're considering gut health, insulin resistance, and visceral fat. I don't think organ growth is really of any notice, but there is also those people who have run growth hormone for so long that you do see changes in their nose and their ears and whatever. So,
well, look at me. well, my ears got bigger from grappling the last few years.
Yeah.
Also, too, my nose genetics are horrible, but I even watch some of these pros and you see their nose. I have a size 13 foot. Mm-hmm. I definitely think that part's a real thing. But you bring up an amazing point. We can't say it. The proportion issues are just because of growth hormone,
right? Because it's not.
It's not. No,
it's not.
Yeah,
but then again, that's the thing is everyone that's in pro bodybuilding is not just using just growth hormone.
Yep.
So what variables can we actually adjust and still meet our goals, but then get the best look and the best outcome, And that's what I want to figure out through all of these podcasts. And I'm starting to err on the side of I think there's a lot of benefits to using growth hormone. And I think everyone that's pro bodybuilding, if they can afford it, they should use a quality growth hormone if they can. But as to how much, I also feel if you have the time and just like you said, you planned your start of your bodybuilding career as a long-term game. I think there is a good trade-off to doing things at a lower dose and just going slower and still reaching the same size, maybe an extra year later,
Yeah.
Rather than an extra year sooner. I feel like there's some potential to that.
Well, why rush it?
Right. And that doesn't just go for the dose of growth hormone, but probably the intake of food too. A little bit less food and a little bit less growth hormone. Maybe you might end up with something a little bit, I don't know, more optimal in terms of results at the end. I don't know.
Well, again, why rush it? Right. And you can't continually just push all these things. You have to, even the food, you have to take breaks off the high food. Why rush it? Take your time. I know what it felt like to be a young guy who, wanted to be as big as, the top guys. And why would you want to risk only doing it for 5 to 10 years When, hey, maybe you can enjoy bodybuilding for 20 years, maybe more, right? So I do like the slower approach. Now, am I like the super low dose guy? No. There's levels to bodybuilding. There is. And I do believe a lot of people are untruthful with the dosages that they talk about, because I know what a lot of guys do firsthand, and I would never out them like that. But with anybody I work with, it's like, and it was taught to me very young, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a sprint. So I'd rather, do a couple laps and take a 100-meter sprint.
Are there any PEDs that you avoid at all cost?
DMP being one. Humbly speaking, I think I've done a pretty good job, especially the last few years, on getting guys in condition. I've never used DMP, never will use it. And listen, I know a lot of people will argue and say, oh, there's safe ways to use it. You take a little bit of extra tren, you're probably not going to die. You take a little bit of growth hormone, probably not going to die. You do a little too much DMP, you could die. And I'm not going to play. We already skirt the lines of telling people to take these things. I'm not going to play God with somebody and tell them to take DMP when there's ways we can do it with nutrition. Even like with T3, if I use T3 with somebody, it's not a lot. 12.5 mcgs, maybe 25. It's very rare I've gone over that the last few years. Even fat burners too. Clen, that goes in and out. It all goes back to how you understand nutrition, but also to how you understand the client that you're working with. Every person ticks a little different. So when somebody asks me, what is your strategy? I'm like, I have none. Like, what? I'm like, I have none. I want to see how your body functions, and I want it to function how I want it to function. So I know I just went off on a tangent, but DMP is definitely one I don't touch. That's really the only one. I've used myself and had people use pretty much everything else. It's just DMP.
Where have you utilized DHB?
Oh, excuse me. I used DHB like 3 times in some people's off seasons. And I didn't really, number one, every single one of them had horrible lumping from it. 2 of those people did their blood work. Their CRP was through the roof from whatever inflammation it was causing. So I never used it again.
Okay.
It was just the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. No pun intended,
Yeah. Yeah. Are there any peptides that you utilize now?
Yeah. So, I've been having people use peptides since 2013. It was my dad, actually. When he got into bodybuilding, he tore his calf. He was getting ready for his second show, and he said, what do you think of this BPC TB500 stuff? I'm like, what? I'm like, I never heard of this. This is way back then. And so I was big on those for a long time. Never really dove into the other ones. But now MOTC is for the person. And again, I don't like making blanket statements, because you may take MOTC, you may love it. Bob may take, I don't feel or see a thing. These things don't work the same with everybody. But for the person it does work for, I've done a couple preps with it now with people, and they got peeled on even less cardio, more food. They felt great. So MOTC is a very cool one that I've been very interested in. Again, it doesn't work for everybody.
Right.
Retta.
Before you go on to Retta, I have to agree with the MOTC. I use that for my prep too, and I felt the same.
Okay.
I do say, I think the one thing that, and I don't know everything about, there's a lot of people that are way smarter than me, especially in terms of peptides, but I think one of the places that MOTC differentiates amongst people is you making sure that you're managing your oxidative stress as you're using it.
Yep.
Especially because you're creating new mitochondria. I know people that have I even know people that have not in bodybuilding, but they've used recreational drugs in their bodies in a very unhealthy place, and they have to get checked up. They use MOTC and they feel fatigued.
Yep.
This is probably one of those good places where you should probably take some NAC, utilize some glutathione, utilize SS31.
Urolithin A.
Yeah.
Have you heard of that one?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just help clean your body, heal your body first. And then I think that's where some of these things where they're you're increasing your mitochondrial work.
Well, yeah, it spins.
The word. Yeah.
They spin. It's, I like to explain things in very simple terms, because that's how I understand them. You'll never hear me try to talk overly sciencey, but that mitochondria spins, and that's what releases off the oxidative stress. So
right.
That's why.
Exactly. It's if you're already so fucking stressed, why you're only going to create more oxidative stress in your body if you're not clearing that out first.
Well, it goes back to what we were saying, the terrain.
At least managing it.
The terrain sets the environment for everything. So in preps, I found that very, well, for a couple of people, very successful. SOUP is so hit or miss with people. Not huge on it, but there have been a few people that I've noticed they feel great on it. Their training and their cardio is more productive. For me, when I took it, it actually, well, this is actually martial arts. It made my gas tank worse. Retta, not for everybody.
Do you know how much you took when you took SLU?
Yeah, so the max I took was 1,500 mcgs.
Okay. Have you ever tried lower doses? Like 1,000 or 500?
Oh yeah, no. So I started at 100 mcgs,
Uh-huh.
and I worked it up over time, and I maxed out at 1,500.
But for you still felt like at all those doses?
Same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, but then again, my body's
cool.
just weird.
Yeah.
Like my gas tank and like sparring and pad work, it wasn't, with MMA, it just wasn't the same. But also too, I'm still a 240 something pound human, and my body still thinks it's a bodybuilder. So my demand for food and my energy expenditure was high to begin with.
Okay. Yeah.
You know,
It's cool to hear the difference between people like Dom Kuza, for example, when he experimented on SLU for himself, like he'd take a gram a day and it would actually increase endurance for all its cardio.
Yeah.
And he's been doing a lot more cardio these days since, he's a coach. So
yeah.
It's cool to hear the difference.
Yeah. But that's like what I was just saying before. What worked for me may not work for you,
Right.
and vice versa. So a lot of these things, they're experimental, they're research grade. Sure, some of them were made for, medical purposes, but it's not going to work the same for everybody. KPV, amazing for inflammation and some gut issues. So thymosin alpha-1 and KPV changed my life. And so since I had the mercury poisoning, my immune system has been horrible since 2020. I'm notorious for getting sick. Every 2 months, I was getting sick no matter what. Last year, I started taking thymosin alpha-1, KPV, making sure my multi-minerals and my micronutrients were set up. And I've been sick once since. So those two, for the right people, like one of my athletes, he has Hashimoto's. He does a low dose of KPV and thymosin alpha-1. His flare-ups for Hashimoto's are little to none now. Not for everybody, because it could also cause the opposite effect with some people. So thymosin alpha-1 for the right person. KPV is incredible for overall inflammation and even some gut dysfunction, depending on the case. The GLPs, remember how everybody was going at first? I'm like, screw these things.
Yeah.
I don't like using them for appetite because, again, in prep, I want to know if somebody's hungry.
Yeah.
If you're not hungry, like I wasn't hungry during my New York Pro prep, that's a bad thing, probably, right? So I'm not if I do use it with somebody, it's not to mask hunger.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a Band-Aid for that. I like the metabolic benefits of it, insulin sensitivity and the lipid control and the effect I've seen it have on people's liver.
I like the lipid control.
It's huge. It's a game changer. That stuff is changing the world, but it's not for every prep because I've also seen it make people into a smaller version of themselves, even at lower doses. I think people are taking too much of it. They're underestimating how powerful that glucagon component really is.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take much. And like you just said, if you're doing cardio, you're training, you're dieting, why should you add in 3, 4, 5 milligrams of Retta, right? Even 1/4 milligram a week makes a big difference with a lot of people. What other peptides?
Have you seen, what are your thoughts on the look on stage aside from like you see them becoming smaller people? Like have you, what have you seen for the people that have used it? Have you seen good outcomes?
I'm pretty sure he's comfortable with me saying this. So Chris Mazzaro, he turned pro last year at USA's. Like 4 weeks out, he was like high 230s. I don't remember, that back picture you posted on that question? That's him.
I just saw him at the Dragons.
That's him.
I just met him.
He looked nuts about a month out. And he was high 230s, but I knew we had to be a heavyweight. I had a gut feeling if he went as a super, they weren't going to give it to him. I always go with my gut over most things. It's funny. There was some people making fun of me on a Discord saying that Dom just looks into a mystical ball. And yeah, I go with my gut. That's what bodybuilding is to me.
I mean, that's fucking Chris too.
Experiences right? And going by my gut.
Yeah.
So we use Retta. He used 2 I think it was 4 milligrams a week. He got down to heavyweight, but he was a lot smaller than he was, a month out at 235, 236. He won the heavyweight class, thank God. But that was one case. There are a couple pros that I know have used it. I don't want to put their name out there last year, but it ruined their look. And then there's some people that they didn't have to do like people I worked with. They didn't have to do as much cardio. They're refeeding pretty frequently. They didn't have to take much Clenadol. So it's a matter of finding who can really benefit from it. But now, after seeing and hearing about so many people, it's far and few. So it's not like this staple that people were claiming to be in a contest prep.
Okay, so you think there are some people that still looked like great or like close to their best or even their best on stage with Retta, but it was just a very, very small percentage?
Oh, yeah. I've seen it with some of my athletes. Yeah. I mean, it was very far and few. But yeah, absolutely.
For those athletes, I know this is probably more of a genetic component for the reason why they look great, but how far did you guys pull it out, if you did at all, and what did the dosing look like?
So I don't know if he wants his information out there. He had always had a very tough time coming in shape for shows. So around 9 weeks out, we're doing all this cardio. This is somebody as a recent. We're doing all this cardio, eating not much. I look past at all his past preps that he did with somebody else, and a prep that him and I did. I'm like, no, this is not working. So the most we used was a 0.5 milligram once a week, and then we loaded to 1/4 milligram. He wound up doing no cardio all prep. I would just have him wake up in the morning, take his Clen and pose, post workout. We were refeeding 2 to 3 times a week, just relying on steps, anywhere from 10 to 14,000, and it was his best look ever. In terms of pulling it out, I kept it in 7 days out, but he was at 1/4 milligram. So by 4 or 5 days in, it's pretty much almost out, for the most part, almost out of his system. What is it? 0.125?
Right. That's such a small, dude, that's such
Tiny.
a small amount anyways.
Yeah, it's so tiny. But then I had a super heavy last year who was on 2 milligrams, and we kept it in too late. And he wound up with, some gut issues on stage. So then we're like, next show, which was a couple weeks later, we left it out, and that problem was gone. So you do need to make sure you pull it out for 2 reasons with most people, depending on the dosage. Is one, the gastric emptying is obviously slowed.
Yep.
So the carb up process will be interfered. You possibly run into some gut issues. And 2, because of that glucagon component, you're burning off food. So not only are we not digesting as quick, we're burning it off. So now you need more food, and it's gonna fire back.
And I think that's the problem that a lot of people that I know that have probably run it at higher dosages, well, definitely higher than 0.5 a week, but higher dosages respectively, where they see like the problem with carbing up is like they can't pinpoint what the carb up should look like anymore because it's different now that the glucagon has been reduced. Like if you take it out 1 week before, 2 weeks out, and you don't have a mock at that exact same saturation of Retta in your system, then it's going to be different when you carb up before the show, right? Grant Romer, for example, while he was working with Phil, that was one of the issues that they ran into.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a pretty cool anecdote that you have. I think that's one of the most specific anecdotes I've heard of successfully using Retta. So that's cool. Nice.
Yeah, and that's firsthand experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to try to get Phil and Mike on this podcast to talk more about like some other peptide protocols, because Mike started APR Health Solutions because he had, actually mostly because he was a manufacturer for other companies, and it was like is it called Sazerac or something, like a alcohol company that has like 500 or 5,000 brands or something under it in Kentucky. And he has celiac disease, autoimmune. And so he was just buying peptides to manage his disease and manage his health and everything, which ended up working out amazingly after he did all this research. But then he was just like, I just want to not pay this much. So he created his own stuff, manufacturing for himself and his friends. And then now he has the company. So that's why I've been supporting it for a long time. So I think it would be cool to like hear his perspective on some other protocols he has for health, just like you did for your immune system. Because, well, I think they're really expensive. And for like a lot of kids who are starting out, like you don't need to spend money on high dose of GH or peptides. but there are like a lot of use cases where I found it honestly very helpful.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you down to jump to the Q&A real quick? The
Yeah, of
audience
course.
Q&A?
Yeah, no, of course.
This is dope, man. A lot of good info that I wasn't even aware of.
Well, see, I'm hoping I wasn't jumping around too much because once
No.
my brain starts going.
Yeah. I have been really working hard on trying to like limit the podcast timing better and not going all the way to 3 hours.
It's all good.
But it's hard sometimes. It's just fun to talk about all this shit. Coach Leonard asks, what's the perfect post-show rebound strategy?
Okay. Well, there is no perfect. Because again, I sound like a politician. It's person dependent. For some people, depending on the length of their prep, how hard you push the gear, how beaten down their body is, we could go 2 ways, right? We can start implementing a higher dose of testosterone and growth hormone. Could be 500 and 3 to 5 hours of GH, slowly driving the food up and really rebound. I mean, there's people that say you can't make progress in a rebound. That's a lie. I've been doing it for a very long time. When it's done right, you can really set the bar for that next off season. And then there's some people, let's say you've done multiple shows, let's say you're pretty beaten up, doing that probably isn't the best. So going down into again, kind of like circling back to what we were saying before, a TRT dose, maybe a little bit of GH and just relying on the food. They stay lean throughout the entire process. They definitely put muscle tissue on. And then what? In like 8 weeks, you could start your growth phase. So I'm going to mention my client, Justin McCloskey. He did his first national level show last year, placed 6 in heavies, looked amazing. And I'm like, okay, let's try something here. I put him on, I think it was 160 milligrams of testosterone, MOTS-C. I don't even know if we used GH. But anyways, he blew up during the rebound phase. And then when we started the growth phase, I mean, now he's up to 263 this morning. He held amazing conditioning throughout. So there's that. But then again, too, like I said, this comes with experience. You know, there are some people that, yeah, you need to put more muscle tissue on. So let's get some testosterone going. Let's get you eating good. But you have to stay, you can't. A lot of people struggle with the cravings, which is normal. You know, ghrelin starts becoming crazy, the hunger hormones, your post-show, you don't have a goal. So making sure you are staying tight and taking advantage of that insulin sensitivity is super important. You don't really need to worry about setting PRs for a while. You go a long way with a little bit of testosterone and growth hormones. So, you know, it's a very general answer. So there's 2 ways we can go with that.
Would you say that post-show time, if you are trying to make sure that you're not eating too much, is a good time to implement a GLP?
I don't like to rely on that because there's, number one, I want to know how hungry they are. 2, I don't want to have to feed them for the sake of keeping up with the glucagon component. And 3, what happens, now there was a mental component to it. It becomes a crutch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I use it so now I have to use it every rebound. I don't want people to use it as a crutch. There are some people I've used it for the other reasons, but in terms of appetite, now some people will say, oh, well, it's there, so why don't you use it? No, I want them to be hungry. I want to know how hungry are you. I don't want to have any interference with your digestion. So that gives me the accurate data I need to move the food up accordingly. So again, person, place, and time, but I don't want to rely on that for post-show.
Okay.
And everybody should feel and experience what that hunger is post-show because you need to learn for yourself. If you're just putting a Band-Aid on and you don't know, then you don't know for future experiences.
Mm-hmm. Random question from me. What is your perspective on orals at the end of prep? Like how often do you implement them? And
so I do like orals.
Mm-hmm.
I do think they hold significant value for most people in creating that super hard and grainy look. One, we want to make sure that it's not interfering with your gut health, but that work is done before the prep. Years ago, I loved orals in the off season for people. Now it's like, why? Why? We have testosterone. We have all these other compounds. Why bother interfering with your appetite and causing more inflammation and more for your body to process? So I'd rather save the orals for pre-contest. Winstrol is a big one. It does create that unique look. Proviron, like a lot of people like, oh, Proviron does nothing. Proviron does make a significant difference with the right person in terms of hardness. Anavar, I've kind of gotten away from. I'm like, why would I have somebody take Anavar? I'd rather them use Winstrol. Halotestin, when it's real, will give you that push in the gym that you need to help performance across the board. But yeah, as long as it's not interfering with digestion and your overall gut health, and I do like orals.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can agree with that too. Like, I fucking love Winstrol for the look, man. For
It's
prep.
great.
It's so good for me too. Especially because I'm like a darker skinned, like softer looking dude. You know, it's easy for me to.
It works for that body
It's
type.
very great for
Yeah.
this. But I also agree, like more than Retta, Winstrol affected my gut by the time the show rolled
Really?
around. For the show that was 3 weeks, it was good. So Winstrol in my system for 3 weeks was okay. For the show 3 weeks after that, where Winstrol was in for 6 weeks, and instead of 37.5 milligrams, I went up to 50 milligrams. That's where I saw the problems, and I had some fucking pretty bad gut issues carving up for the show.
What did you have? What issues? What were some of your symptoms?
Build up in there.
Okay.
Flatulence. Definitely a lot of discomfort. I think a lot of the things that you would just expect when it's like, okay, the motility is not there and it's not running through your system like
Yeah.
it should be. So I feel like going on stage, my waist circumference was a little bit bigger than I'm used to it being on stage.
Okay.
Still ended up being a great look because like we were still managing it. But optimally now, if my next few shows, I would opt out of doing Winstrol that long and that high of a dose.
Okay.
And I would also honestly consider rather going the Evan Centopani or Vigorous Steve way and just looking for a credible source of injectable Winstrol
Okay.
if I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back then, I think I took the Zambons. It was Desma, and then it was Zambons. Those things were incredible. They don't even make them anymore. But just to kind of counter that, are you sure it's from the Winstrol and not from anything diet related or
Yeah.
prep related?
I'm absolutely sure because it's the only variable that was changed.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
only one.
Yeah, because out of all the preps I've done, I never had anybody have issues. But again, not everybody's the same.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The only orals I was taking was Halo and Proviron. That was the only thing that changed, was upping the dose and the duration of the Winstrol. So yeah. Manoj Sarang. Oh wait.
That's my client, Minaj.
I was going to say this question before I said his name, but
Okay.
where does Dom see Indians in open bodybuilding in the coming 3 years? P.S. He is my coach.
Oh, yeah. That's Minaj. He actually just made the crossover from classic to open.
Nice.
I mean, for him, so talking to Minaj, he knows he just needs more size. Conditioning has never been an issue. Classic was impossible. When he came to me, I'm like, dude, like, what did you do to make weight? It was horrific, what he told me. He was peeled, but I'm like, yeah, you're not doing classic anymore. You have to go to open, which takes time. There isn't really that many Indian bodybuilders going to open. You know, in the genetic if you want to talk about genetically with Indians, with putting on muscle, out of a lot of the different cultures that I've seen, Indians don't really have the best genetics for putting on muscle. So, you know, you got to have the right ones out of the crop. You know, he's a big boy. So he's definitely put on a lot of size. So again, it just really depends on the person. But I haven't seen that many Indian. I mean, how many open bodybuilders have we seen from India?
Yeah.
Go to the Olympia. I think there's been one or two go to the Open Olympia. Him and I researched it because I'm like, dude, I would love to get you to the Open Olympia from India. But yeah, he'll be there one day.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I like about bodybuilding now, and it being so much more diverse and just so many fucking countries going into it. And it's cool because, like, you know, back in the day too, like when I was growing up, Asians were especially male Asians were the bottom of the crop just in general in terms of like the
You see these
social
Koreans
ladder.
now?
Oh fuck! It's
My
so
God,
sick.
it's like they all come out of the womb with the massive
for
legs.
Sure. Like, oh well, the legs for sure. Like
Yeah.
the legs are just there. In terms of the upper body and especially the back, it's always been a struggle for mass building in terms of East Asians.
Yeah.
And I think just Asians in general. Filipinos tend to have a lot better backs. I think their legs are always quite as great. And then I think us Filipinos, like the hardest thing for us is normally our midsections. You look at Jeremy Bundia, Jeremy Potvin, me, fucking Marine. For some reason, midsections, they just hold a little bit more, like they look softer. And then also normally the cuts are less like me and Jeremy, like we have a 4-pack. You know, it's just interesting.
Sounds like me, except I'm Italian.
That's why I like classic, because I can vacuum in a way, you know?
Yeah.
It's also why I'm not in men's physique, because I suck at it. But
Classic's better anyway.
It's just cool to see all of that though, and it's also dope that like I think nowadays, especially with PED use, I feel like in a way like maybe it doesn't level out the playing field because genetics are still there when it comes to how you respond to PEDs, but it feels like it does. So it's cool to see like all these fucking crazy Asians with the smallest waist just go up on stage with
like
this crazy proportion.
Just crazy legs. Yeah, there's a lot of them now.
Yeah, sick. Varun J asks, have you done any genetic testing?
So I only did one. It was when I was dealing with my mercury poisoning out here, and they ran, I forgot the terminology. It's been years, but they ran some genetic tests to see how I detox mercury. And apparently I have the gene that doesn't detox it well enough. But am I allowed to shout out my business?
Yeah.
So I am in the process of opening up a telemed clinic. It's one of the reasons why I moved out to Vegas. We're going to have hormone replacement, peptides, hair loss, sexual health, lab work, all the ancillary medications, but we're also going to be offering genetic testing. I've been researching it quite a bit. I'm actually in the process of getting some done soon myself because I really believe that not only for everyday people to check their health status and what they're vulnerable to, I believe it could be a really, really cool insight into, checking to see what makes a certain bodybuilder tick from a genetic standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
But no, that's the only genetic test I've done was, the whatever mercury gene they were testing for.
I totally agree with that and how cool it could be. I don't think it technically should. I'm also in the camp of like what you believe is everything, right? Especially when it comes to your growth, your future, the things that you manifest, how you act as that man that you want to be. But also, Dr. Dean and I both got our genetics done through, I think he got the raw data from somewhere else. I got it from 23andMe, and then we both put it into Prometheus to get a rundown of like all our genetic markers. And it's pretty cool to see all of it and just see how it relates to you because it's kind of wild, honestly, man.
Yeah, listen,
and I think it'll help a lot of people, not only with like them getting the best results in the sport, but also their health in the long term. I think that's the most important one. Being aware of like what your risks are for certain things, and then being able to like, all right, I'm going to put all this supplementation. I'm going to put some of this extra supplementation, even pharmaceutical intervention if I need to, around this high cardiovascular issue or whatever, or like, okay, I have a high chance of cancer in this area, so I'm going to continue to do cancer screenings regularly around these places as I can afford it.
That's
like that.
Huge.
Yeah.
To know what you're susceptible to and how you can form. That's a big reason why we're adding it to our clinic. Because it's just another insight, on how we can shape our supplementation, our nutrition. But there's going to be more to come on that. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Do you mind moving the mic again a little bit? Like
here?
Yeah.
Okay. My bad.
No, you're good. I'm trying to make sure that I like do this properly this time because as Kev was far from the mic, and then my team and I focused on editing it, and then unfortunately, like they sent me a whole like apology email, which was really nice of them. Like I love the people that I work with. Like I love that they did that. But my L was that I didn't like the export was so late by the time that I had to upload the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't check the podcast myself and be like, okay, can you like re-export this whole thing, re-download it? And there wasn't even any time. So by the time it was uploaded, I saw the audio issue, and like I'm just like so upset that like his voice cuts out.
I hope this one comes out all right.
No, it'll be great. Yeah. I just wanted to apologize to everyone for that podcast. Like that was my fault.
Uh-oh.
We're gonna skip this one. It was about your client. Drew Denimore asks, why is his butt cheeks really big?
Who asked that?
Drew Denimore. I don't know. But it was about I'm brain farting right now, but I met both of your clients at the gym today, and they're fucking massive, dude. They're huge.
Oh,
it's insane.
Chris and Tyrese.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bro, they're fucking huge. And then I was like, dude, Tyrese I was like, dude, you're open, right? And he's like, no, I'm classic. I'm like, well,
classic.
Fuck me. I'm just going to quit then.
Yeah, that's a big
dude.
boy. Yeah.
He's massive, bro.
Yeah, it's
like,
a big boy.
Fucking shelf, man.
Crazy shape.
Gives me a lot of confidence. Evan Florendo asks, favorite hamstring workout?
So when I was actively bodybuilding, I always trained hams after it was calves, quads, hams. I always squatted. I barbell squatted every week. That was, I mean, as low as I can go. Same thing with hack squats. So they indirectly got hit from that.
How much do you feel like it really indirectly hits hamstrings though? In something like squats?
I feel like it had a pretty big impact because I had, I mean, thinking to everybody in my family has big legs, but that drop I had on my hamstrings, I definitely feel that played a big part in it. I mean, when you're squatting, it's glutes, it's hamstrings, it's quads. For me, it was mainly quads. Definitely played a part, but I never really did too many stiff leg deadlifts or Romanian deads. It was always lying hamstring curls, seated hamstring curls, and single leg curls because they were super isolated. I could focus on them.
Yeah.
And then we also used to do tons of drop sets, but they were also higher depending on how heavy we went. But like, let's say we did lying ham curls, right? We built up every set 20 reps, 20 reps, 20 reps. And then at the end, it was like 3 or 4 drop sets. And then we went on to like a single or a seated, and that's where it was like 10 to 12 reps, just super slow and controlled. So yeah, that always did very well for me back then.
This is my perspective. Oh, fuck, there's a lot of questions.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. That's cool. People care to hear what I have to say.
There's my perspective. Okay, so I don't even know if I've talked about this before, but this is how I see hamstring training, and people can disagree with me if they want. But for me personally, I also believe that you do not need to do RDLs. I don't. I think the main movements are always going to be curls. Now, I think it's very optimal that if you can do a curl in the way that, one, you have a stretch on the hamstring, so such as like a seated hamstring curl, or if you can get to some kind of like lying machine that has a little bit more of a pivot and you have a little bit more hip flexion. And then when you're doing the curl, you're engaging in the hip extension muscle as you're doing the curl rather than letting the knees rest on the pad. I think as long as you're engaging that as you're doing the curl, that's extremely important. You don't actually have to do a whole like RDL, right? And then if you do want to focus on the hip flexion aspect of the hamstring, I like exercises such as like the GHR, which puts a little bit less load on your lumbar than like an RDL, because like a lot of us bodybuilders, man, we're not powerlifters. Like most of us, we have stronger legs and glutes than we do lower back. Mm-hmm. And by sometimes like doing an RDL, man, I'm just going to get like, especially on gear, like crazy fucking back pumps, not going to be able to hit my legs properly the way I want to instead. Yeah. But I do a GHR on the other hand. I have my, knee flexion. And then as I'm doing the knee flexion, I have hip extension, and having both of those at the same time while not having like a weight or anything except for my torso weight on my lumbar just makes it so much easier for me to target my hamstrings.
Yeah, well, why put your spine under that load with the Romanians and the stiff leg deadlifts when the hamstring is almost like a bicep? With those other machines, yeah, they're machines. Like they're getting hit indirectly on the leg press. They're getting hit indirectly with your squats. So why do you need to stretch your spine out more than it already is?
Yeah.
So those machines, we always did well with them. And I've trained with Kai Green before. I mean, well, he did stuff. He did everything. So that doesn't even count. But every freak that I trained with Oscar Arden, even training when me and Flex Lewis are training together, pretty much Evan Centopani, it was all, lying hamstring curls, seated hamstring curls, and the singles. But like you said, making sure that we're really stretching every rep and squeezing every rep too.
Mm-hmm. I do think RDLs can be effective for some people, but normally I would say, depending on how strong your back is compared to the rest of your body, compared to your lower, if you're not doing like free weights during your back and all your back exercises are more like chest supported stuff, like that's where like that becomes effective, right? Mm-hmm. But then if you're like me, where like I love doing a lot of free weight back stuff for thickness, like cable rows or like barbell and dumbbell rows, my back is fucking fried, dude. Yeah. And I ended up running into an issue where I was doing all of these hip hinge movements and my back was so, I got into this situation in my off season, this last off season, where I couldn't even train anymore because my back was in so much pain, and I would try to let it recover as much as possible. Mm-hmm. But it didn't ever get better until I decided to just completely stop doing like hack squats, stop doing any hip hinging pattern, stop doing any back exercises with free weights. I had to stop everything for weeks before it got back. And it was so bad that like when I ate food and my gut would be full, my back would start fucking hurting a lot. And so would like part of my core. It was like,
the TVA band was probably, that had to play a part in it too.
Yeah. It was just too much.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll try to pick the best ones. I'll try to get it through as many as we can for the guys. Bissell23 asks, deload or total rest?
Person, place, and time, right? There are some people I tell them to take a complete week off, and then there are some people I say, okay, let's pull it down to maybe 40, 50% intensity, no PRs, bring the intensity down. So again, it depends, because there are guys that, you know, they get sick, and I'm like, all right, just take off for the week, and they come back, and I'm like, oh my God, I haven't felt this good in a while. So again, there's no set answer, but there are times, like I'll tell my guys, all right, you're not training for 4 days, or you're not training for 7 days, or, you know, this week, let's just pull the intensity way down, pull intensifiers at, nothing till failure. So again, it's person dependent.
Okay. I have BB Pro. Yeah. Chris Massaro asks, why do you think people are buying less and less over-the-counter health supplements?
Reliance on peptides and gear, and they're not. So back in 2015, when I was first signed to Project AD, they had health supplements and they weren't really all that popular back then. Dante Trudell was one of my biggest mentors when it came to health supplementation. He still is to this day. Not only is he very intelligent, he's just an incredible human being. And I started posting about it back then. That's when I started implementing in my clients' protocols. I have seen probably hundreds of panels of blood work, God knows how many. And I have seen the impact health supplementation has on blood work. And people argue that, well, why would you tell people to waste money? Why would you wait for problems to arise? Take care of the engine. You know, you service your car, you service your motorcycle. Why wouldn't you want the inner parts working as best as you? Well, first off, you want to live for a long time, but two, you're only as functional as well as you are in the inside. So I encourage people to take, health supplementation for their heart, their lipids, their kidneys, their, everything on the inside. So, but it's just not as important to people, and you have to think long-term. But if you don't want to think long-term, just think how well you're going to progress if you're functioning as optimally inside as you possibly could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to have to do a part 2 where we can talk about more about like health supplements and risk management, because that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Because we hardly did that this podcast.
That's cool.
AJ Mango Fit asks, do you manage date nights with your partner? Is that something you prioritize? Off-season mostly.
Yeah. The old Dom would say, oh no, then again, no. I always had people have at least one free meal in the off season, depending on the phase that we're in. But there is more to life than just bodybuilding, right? If you're not spending time with your girlfriend, your boyfriend, husband, wife, they're not going to be happy. And if they're not happy, they're going to stress you out. And that's not good for bodybuilding. But also too, you want to think, if this person is supporting you, you can at least give them some of your time and be present. And John Meadows used to say, happy wife is a happy life. Well, and happy life is good for bodybuilding, right? But most importantly, you want to make sure that you're keeping your relationship as healthy as possible, being present, spending time with that person. You can do it pre-contest too. Not everything has to revolve around food.
Yeah.
So like, listen, off season, like I tell my guys, like go out, go have a meal, be present, get rid of the phone. You go back to your diet tomorrow. One meal is not going to kill you. If you're in prep, no, get out of the house. If you want to stay in the house, then get rid of your phone and watch a movie, but get out of the house, go take a walk, go watch them eat ice cream. Like you're going to eat ice cream after your show. So it is very, very important to not only involve your spouse, girlfriend, whatever it is in your, bodybuilding endeavors, but to spend time with them too. It's not going to offset your progress at all.
I'm with that. Happy wife, happy life.
That's right.
PPL Dad asks 2 foods most athletes aren't eating but absolutely should be eating.
Fruits. Yeah, listen, like
I love those.
Fruits, they taste great. They're full of micronutrients. I mean, we can get into all the deep aspects of it. There used to be this myth that eating fruits will make you fat. You can't eat them in prep. All my guys eat them pretty much up to peak week and during the peak, usually. A lot of them are great for digestion, antioxidants. Like food is fuel, food is power. It's a lot more than just protein, carbs, and fat. So, fruits are very powerful when it comes to our health and even just feeling good day to day. So I'm not even going to give 2. I'm going to say fruits.
Yeah.
For most people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fruits over veggies every day, baby.
That's right.
Just kidding, guys. Just kidding. Not really, though. All right. I have one last question I ask at the end of every podcast, but if you were to disappear from the world tomorrow, and you had one message you could send to the entire world today, what would the message be?
If I was to disappear tomorrow, which could happen to any of us, like we were talking about, okay, it's going to have a few parts. Keep the people that support you and love you close to you and let them know, because their days aren't, guaranteed. None of us are. Keep them real close. And at least let them know that you love them. And then 2, Jesus Christ is very real. And as we spoke about in the beginning of this, he has completely changed my life, completely changed people's I know's life, and it cost you nothing. You have nothing to lose. Learn who Jesus is, learn how he can work through your life, and just give him a shot. And I've seen it work through a few of my clients who have completely given their life to Jesus, aside from mine. He has been the game changer of all game changers to every aspect. Now, is everything perfect? No, we're living in a human world. Nothing is ever perfect. But that is the most important thing I can tell to people right now. Out of all the conversation that we just had, and I'm so glad you asked this question, Jesus is the way, Jesus is the truth, and just give him a shot. Just give him a shot. You have nothing to lose.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah.
Where can everybody find you, or where would you like them to find you?
Instagram, Dom Cardone, IFBB. Yeah, that's where you could find me.
Sick.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Dom, 5 stars, Apple Pod and Spotify.
Yes.
And that's about it. Cardone and Dom.
Yeah.
Peace.